In the fourth year of my marriage to Devon, his first love returned to the country after a divorce. To make matters worse, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't have much time left. For the remaining 6 months of my life, I continued playing the role of Devon's perfect wife. Right until I passed away. It was only after reading the diary I left behind that Devon finally broke down. When I got that thin sheet of diagnosis, I stood at the entrance of the hospital, debating whether to call Devon. I hovered over his contact information, tapping in and out of it. Before I could make up my mind, his call came through first. His voice on the other end was as cold and distant as always, but it softened a bit when he said my name. "Carol, I've got something going on tonight. I won't be home for dinner, and I might be back late. Get some rest early." The words I had wanted to say got stuck in my throat. Okay. Like usual, the conversation was short. The busy signal echoed in my ears, but I kept holding the phone to my ear. The setting sun in the sky was blood red. Devon and I have been married for 4 years now. And I'd been in love with him for almost 10. I got lucky. Devon's family was pressuring him to get married, setting him up on blind dates everywhere. He just happened to meet me. Since I looked decent enough, we agreed to get married right away. Devon needed a wife, and I was just right for the role. He's always been a cold person, doesn't talk much, rarely shows emotion, and almost never expresses anything on his face. It took me 2 years to finally melt the ice around him. We started to become like a normal couple, living our lives through the mundane routines, slowly becoming what I'd always hoped for. But now, this dream, one that had only just begun, was about to shatter. Today, the doctor told me I had pancreatic cancer. And today, I also learned that his first love, Judy, returned to town. That's why he was in such a rush to hang up on me. He was off to see the woman who's always been on his mind. I didn't eat dinner. Instead, I sat in the living room, waiting for him. It wasn't until late at night when the door finally opened, waking me from my groggy sleep. Devon entered quietly, careful to shut the door softly and step lightly. When the living room light clicked on, our eyes met. He froze for just a second, then frowned slightly. "Why aren't you asleep yet?" "I accidentally fell asleep here in the living room," I replied, smiling at him. I woke up as soon as I heard the door. Devon only gave a quiet his expression unchanged. I walked over and took his coat. The smell of sandalwood mixed with gardenia hit me, making me feel nauseous. Gardenia was Judy's favorite scent. On the day I was diagnosed with a terminal illness, my husband had driven to pick up his long-lost first love from the airport. I should have asked him about it. But I only opened my mouth without saying anything. It was as if nothing had happened. The next day, I still got up early to make Devon breakfast, just like usual. Devon had stomach problems. When it got bad, he had to stay in the hospital for half a month, and I stayed with him the whole time. The doctors and nurses all said he was lucky to have found such a good wife. Devon sat on the hospital bed, looking tired, his gaze indifferent when it fell on me. When we were alone, he spoke again. "A nurse could take care of me just the same." I hesitated for a moment while peeling fruit, and the skin I was cutting broke apart. He seemed to notice and added, "You don't have to tire yourself out. It's not the same." Of course, there wasn't really a difference. But sometimes, you feel like doing things yourself is better than leaving it to someone else. When it's for someone you love, you care more than others do. How is it different? I smiled at him and gave a completely unrelated answer. "Because you're my husband." His stomach never fully recovered, and after he was discharged, I kept thinking about ways to help him heal. Devon was a workaholic, often so busy that he forgot to eat. I'd wake up early to make him breakfast, and when I had time, I'd bring him lunch at work. When I was too busy, I'd just remind him to eat at mealtimes. Over the years, many things became routine, like getting up early. Today, Devon woke up earlier than usual. I didn't have time to fix his tie before I saw him rushing out the door with his lunchbox in hand. As he was about to leave, he paused for a moment, turned around, and looked at me standing in the living room. There was a rare warmth in his usually expressionless face, like snow melting after a long winter. "I'm heading out, Carol. Be careful on the road." Just like countless mornings before. Bringing Devon lunch today was a spur-of-the-moment decision. I hadn't told him I was coming, but the receptionist at his office recognized me and let me up with a smile. I'd been to Devon's office many times. He had always proudly introduced me to everyone, "This is my wife." There was something a bit old-fashioned about that word, like it carried the weight of vows made long ago. For a moment, I'd allowed myself to believe we could spend the rest of our lives like this. But life loves to play cruel jokes. It gives you a dream, then shatters it, leaving you to face its harsh, ugly reality. Like right now. I saw my husband talking with the woman who had been his first love for so many years. In her hands was the lunchbox I had packed for Devon. Judy hadn't changed much, she looked just like she did in college. Her long hair flowed over her shoulders, and when she smiled, she was like a cunning yet harmless cat. "Thanks, the breakfast was delicious," she said with a grin. "No problem," Devon replied, taking the lunchbox from her. Judy seemed like she had more to say, but her eyes suddenly caught sight of me standing not far away. She lit up with surprise, her eyes curving into crescent moons as she rushed over to me. "Carol. It's been so long." She reached for my hand but paused when she noticed the lunchbox I was holding. "Did you bring Devon lunch?" "So, the breakfast this morning was from you too, wasn't it?" "I'm so sorry, I have low blood sugar, and Devon let me have it. If I had known you made it, I wouldn't have eaten it." Judy smiled apologetically at me. "But I have to say, Carol, your cooking is amazing." "Of course, it is. Devon is picky, and his stomach is weak. I'd honed my cooking skills bit by bit, all for him. He knows that." I smiled back at her, but I hid my hand behind my back, my nails digging into my palm. In that moment, beyond the anger, a wave of resentment washed over me. That was when a plan for revenge began to take shape. Devon would never cheat on me. Even though I was still terrified of Judy's return. I did my best to play the role of the perfect wife. The weight of morality and responsibility would hang over Devon, but I didn't know whether it would crush him first, or me. That evening, he came home with a gift. A pink diamond sparkled under the light, the intricate design, clearly expensive. It was beautiful. But I didn't like it. I rarely wore jewelry, only dressing up for formal events when I accompanied Devon. Devon wasn't good with words, so I knew this gift was his way of apologizing for what had happened that morning. I accepted it with a smile. Devon's expression softened a little, though I wasn't sure if he was relieved that I wasn't upset or that I didn't blame Judy. I tossed the box into the drawer and went to bed before him, but I couldn't sleep. When he finally came to bed, the familiar scent of sandalwood filled the air as he gently wrapped his arms around me from behind. His warmth seeped through the thin fabric of my clothes, but I closed my eyes and kept my breathing steady. When he fell asleep, I lay awake. The discomfort in my upper abdomen was growing. I opened my eyes. Moonlight spilled across the floor in a soft, silvery glow. I stared at it for a long time, long enough for the world to feel utterly silent, as if I were the only one left. It was only then, as if for the first time, that it hit me. I was dying. In the morning, after sending Devon off, my phone's calendar sent a notification. I glanced at it quickly and remembered that today was the day to visit my mom. My parents divorced when I was very young. He didn't love my mom and had already been having an affair with someone else. Their daughter was even older than me. My mom raised me on her own, working hard to make ends meet. That's why I vowed to study hard. But luck wasn't on my side, I became the target of a small group of bullies. Even though I didn't really do anything, maybe it was just my clothes that rubbed them the wrong way, or perhaps something I said one day made them hold a grudge. I didn't dare tell my mom, and the teachers couldn't stop them. The more I resisted, the worse they got. That day, surrounded by so many people, I had the thought of going down with them. The rough feeling of the brick in my bag gave me a strange sense of calm. The leader, a girl, gave me a contemptuous look. The next second, she was about to deliver her verdict on me. Then Devon showed up. He was smart. He knew this wouldn't be a one-time thing. He consciously protected me, preventing them from trying anything again, and thanks to him, I got through middle school safely. That's why I was determined to follow him, to get into the same university as him, and to become a better person. But I was one step too late. Just as Devon is my light, he had also encountered his own. Judy is my half-sister, from my father's other relationship. I brought my mom some things. Now that she has a new family, I sat there for 10 minutes, had a brief chat with her, and politely said goodbye. On the taxi ride home, as I approached the entrance to our neighborhood, I saw them again from a distance. Judy and Devin were walking side by side, talking about something, and I noticed a rare smile on my usually reserved husband's face, a soft expression in the corners of his eyes. I froze in place. They were laughing, when suddenly, a dirty little dog jumped out from the bushes and barked twice at Judy. They stopped. Judy tried to pet it, but the dog snarled and lunged at her legs, scaring her right into Devin's arms. Devin caught her, his hand briefly resting on her waist, before he quickly let go. When he turned his head, he saw me standing there. Judy reacted faster than he did. "Carol." I walked over woodenly. Judy was about to say something, but I bent down first, scooping up the dirty dog from the ground. The little dog seemed frightened too and nestled into my arms without struggling. "Devin," I smiled at him, "I want to keep it." The atmosphere suddenly cooled. I just smiled and repeated, "I want to keep it." Devin went with me to the vet. After the checkup, we found out the dog had many issues. Its bones were fractured, its abdomen had scratches, and there were countless other little problems. But it was very well behaved, letting the doctor examine it without making a sound, just lying there quietly. Devin looked at me, as if wanting to say something but holding back. Even after the checkup, on the way home, he didn't say a word. We left the dog at the hospital, and I gave it a name, Kara. When we got home, the atmosphere between us grew tense. Devin stayed silent, and I too remained quiet. It wasn't until we both entered the bedroom that the warm orange light made the room feel cozy again. I sat on the bed, watching Devin come in wearing his pajamas. The soft light fell on him, softening his sharp features. He rarely showed his emotions. When I did see him smile, it was always just a faint curve of his lips, disappearing as quickly as it came. I didn't know how much Devin actually felt for me. After all these years, I thought maybe he had at least some feelings for me. But those thoughts became laughable the moment Judy returned. "Devin," I suddenly called him. He looked up at me, his expression innocent yet distant. "Do your words still count?" "What words?" "You said, I'm your wife. You said you'd treat me well for the rest of my life." I smiled at him. Devin's gaze lowered, and he said lightly, "Why are you asking this all of a sudden?" "Nothing, just crossed my mind." A dull pain started in my upper abdomen, the ache in my waist worsening at night, with my nerves pulsing in my head like a tightly wound string. "They do." The moment he answered, the lights went out. His warm breath fell on my cheek, followed by a gentle kiss. "Good night, baby." As his breathing gradually steadied behind me, I carefully slipped out of his embrace and turned to face him. Then, by the light of the moon, I traced his features inch by inch, from his brow to his chin. Devin wouldn't cheat on me. But he would always think about Judy. Suddenly, I wondered, after I die, when Devin looks back on this moment, what will he feel? The day I left the hospital, I had so many thoughts, all tangled up into a mess, like a ball of yarn. The first thought that popped into my head was, what will Devin do after I die? He'll have to remarry, eventually. At the time, I thought, if Judy divorces and he loses his wife, the two of them might end up together. And that's okay. But not right now. So, I changed my mind. The first time I met Judy was on my 10th birthday. My mom, for once, had a day off and took me out to eat at a restaurant. The place was fancy, and the dishes were expensive, so Mom only ordered a few. Not far from us sat a family of 3, laughing and chatting, while my mom and I sat quietly. The girl at that table kept laughing, wearing a pretty princess dress and a glowing tiara. Her father was sitting across from her, constantly taking photos. When her dad got up to go to the bathroom, I saw his familiar profile, and the fork in my hand clattered onto the table. My mom noticed my reaction, followed my gaze, then calmly looked away. "Do you want to go say hello?" she asked, her voice steady. "After all, he is your dad." When my dad returned to his seat, the little girl ran up to greet him, and he scooped her up in his arms. Their faces were lit with beaming smiles. I shook my head. My memories of Dad were vague. He had never been affectionate with me. When I tried to get close to him, he would coldly reprimand me. The fractured image of a father confused me for a long time. It wasn't until later that I understood, he simply didn't love me. Everything that seemed out of reach to me was easily within Judy's grasp. I kept pretending everything was fine with Devon. Sometimes I'd catch the scent of gardenias on his clothes. Occasionally, I'd see Sun Yan's IG posts, with glimpses of Devon in the background. Subtle, but unmistakable. I would linger on each post for a while, then give it a like. But I never said anything. Just like before, I maintained the calm surface, though underneath, I could feel a storm brewing. But unlike before, I quit my job, we had a dog now, and I picked up the habit of keeping a diary again. Every day I'd write, documenting the dull details of daily life and my health. I started having sleepless nights, and my abdomen constantly ached. I cooked meals for Devon every day, but when it was time for me to eat, I would just stare at the food for a long time, without any appetite. When I visited my mom again, we only talked for about 10 minutes as usual. Before leaving, I secretly slipped a bank card with the password into a book on the table. It contained most of my savings. That was the last time I'd visit her. She walked me to the door, her eyes lingering on my face, and then she added, "Take care of yourself." "Thank you. You too. My mom will be fine." She didn't love my dad, and she didn't love me, but she still took on the responsibility of raising me, ensuring I grew up healthy. Later, karma caught up with my dad, he went bankrupt. But my mom's luck turned. She married someone she loved, had a son, and the three of them are very happy together. That night, Devon came home early. I had just finished cooking when he arrived. The dishes were still steaming on the table. It had been a long time since we'd eaten together like this. Ever since Judy came back, he'd been busier and busier. Devon was always well-mannered, silent while eating and resting. I used to think it was nice to just sit together in silence like that. Devon was calmly picking at his food, while I only took a couple of bites, before losing my appetite. A dull pain started to spread across my abdomen again. Just then, Kara came trotting downstairs and slipped under the dining table. I put down my chopsticks. Devon glanced at me, and I explained, "I'm going to get some dog food for Kara." Kara's room is on the second floor. I had cleaned out an old storage room to make a cozy little den for her. Her food bowl was empty, so I refilled it, and she happily wagged her tail, head down as she ate. Watching her put me in a slightly better mood. Suddenly, the pain in my abdomen worsened, and I felt a metallic taste rise up in my throat. I covered my mouth with my hand, and when I pulled it away, the sight of crimson blood stung my eyes. Kara stopped eating and ran to my side, barking at me. I grabbed a tissue to wipe away the blood, crumpled it, and tossed it into the trash can. I squatted down and patted her head, reassuring her softly, "I'm fine." She barked a couple more times, stopped eating, and jumped onto me, pressing her little body against mine. I picked her up, and she stopped barking, snuggling closer to me. The doorframe suddenly creaked. Devon was standing at the doorway, watching us. His voice was gentle, "Let's eat first." I had no appetite but forced myself to finish the meal. Devon went to wash the dishes. When he came back, he saw me playing with Kara on the couch and sat down next to me. "Carol, I've been really busy lately. Once things slow down, how about we go to the islands together?" I was rubbing Kara's ears and replied, "Sure." Going on a vacation to the islands with Devon had always been on my bucket list. We used to be so distant from each other. Even after we got married, we never went on a honeymoon. Life went on as usual, with work and routine. Later, as our relationship improved, I kept thinking about how I wanted to go to the islands with Devon, as a kind of delayed honeymoon. I never told him this little dream of mine, only mentioned a few times that we should go somewhere. But the workaholic always had a packed schedule, so it kept getting postponed. Now, it was him who brought it up. From the corner of my eye, I saw him looking at me, his sharp eyes slightly softened. I pretended not to notice. He spoke again, "There's a dinner party next Wednesday. Are you free to come with me?" I hesitated for a moment, then quickly regained my composure, "I won't be going." Devon didn't press for a reason, just nodded. My gaze stayed on Kara, ignoring Devon. Judy had just returned from abroad, and her social circle was still small. She wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. If she asked Devon for help, he wouldn't turn her down. Kara whined softly on my lap, and I stroked her head. What Devon didn't expect was that I would show up at the very dinner party where he planned to take Judy behind my back. I went anyway. The ballroom was brightly lit, filled with men in tailored suits and women adorned in gold and jewels. Glasses clinked, laughter filled the air, and everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. I stood at the edge of it all, completely out of place, like I didn't belong. It wasn't hard to spot Devon. I had chased after him for over a decade, searching for his figure in countless crowds. He stood tall in a perfectly tailored suit. The woman holding his arm wore a striking red dress, vibrant like a rose. It was Judy. They moved gracefully through the crowd, laughing and chatting, like the perfect couple made for each other. Even though I had anticipated this scene, seeing it with my own eyes still felt like a sharp slap across my face. My heart pounded, and a creeping anxiety coiled around it, tightening until I felt like I was going to explode. My mind became a tangled mess, and the veins in my temple throbbed. But I did nothing. I just stood there, watching them greet everyone with smiles, hand in hand. I saw someone walk over to Devon, pat him on the shoulder, and point in my direction. Devon turned to look. I wasn't dressed in a fancy gown, and I had gotten so thin. I hadn't dared to look in a mirror for a while, afraid of seeing my sharp cheekbones and the faint skeletal shadows in my face. I knew he saw me. His expression changed instantly, darkening. Through the bustling crowd, our eyes met. I just stood there quietly, not smiling, not crying. When I saw the look on his face, how he let go of Judy's hand and tried to make his way over to me, struggling through the crowd, I suddenly smiled at him. Then, I turned and left. When I got home, I went straight to my old room. The tangled thoughts in my mind wouldn't unravel, and the vines around my heart tightened, as if they were going to burst any second. I couldn't keep calm anymore. I swept everything off the desk, sending them crashing to the floor with a loud noise. It wasn't enough. I yanked books off the shelves, tearing pages out. They fluttered to the ground like snow falling at the wrong time. Still not enough. I grabbed the small trinkets, the makeup, the skincare products, the delicate souvenirs Devon had brought back from his business trips, and even the building blocks we had pieced together. The desire to destroy was overwhelming, and my emotions were wreaking havoc inside me. The room was a complete mess, chaos mirroring the ruins of my broken life. When I finally came back to my senses, the scissors were pressed against my arm. Kara was at my feet, barking frantically. Her sharp little cries filled the air, but when I looked down at her, she suddenly went quiet, opening her mouth in a goofy smile. The scissors clattered to the floor. Kara jumped onto my lap, barking and pawing at me. I mechanically scooped her up, and she snuggled into me, her small body warm against mine. I held her tight, and suddenly, the tears came. All the impulsiveness faded away, leaving behind nothing but a deep, bottomless void in my heart. Such torment. By the time Devon came home, I had already cleaned up the room. He wanted to talk, but I sat on the couch, smiling at him. I knew he wanted to explain, but didn't know where to start. I had been by his side for 4 years. Navigating the social circles, Devon was never great with words, but he was logical. Everything he said came out cold and detached. It was me who taught him how to deal with people, how to handle those slick businessmen. Now, he navigated these occasions with ease, but once outside the business world, he still rarely spoke. I used to think I loved him no matter what, but now, I wonder if it's just that he has nothing to say to me. I smiled and cut him off before he could start. It's okay. I know Judy just got back and doesn't have many connections yet. You wanted to help her, so you took her to the dinner party. Devon's expression shifted. Yes. It's fine, I looked at him, my voice soft. I don't mind. Devon stared at me in silence. Our eyes met and held. I kept looking at him gently. After a long pause, he finally averted his gaze. Suddenly, he pulled me into a tight hug, holding me so firmly that I could barely breathe. His warm breath brushed against my ear. Carol. Intimately close. You've lost weight. I smiled faintly, but didn't respond. The scent of sandalwood and gardenia swirled around us, and I had to force back the nausea rising inside me. The next morning, as usual, I was getting ready to send him off to work. I thought he was about to leave when Devon suddenly stopped in the living room. Baby, he said softly, I forgot to tie my tie. I sighed and went upstairs to grab a tie for him, handing it over. But Devin didn't take it. Instead, he leaned down and said, "Help me, baby." So, I obliged, tying the tie for him as he stood there obediently, head lowered. Once I was done, he suddenly wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling me close, and our bodies pressed together. I looked up at him, about to say something, but the words were swallowed by a warm kiss. Devin cupped my waist and kissed me fiercely, as if tearing off a mask to reveal a raw, primal desire. When he pulled away, his eyes were tinted with a faint red at the corners. I looked at him silently. He planted another kiss on my forehead, his lips curling slightly. "I'm off." I smiled and said goodbye. I had arranged to meet Judy. The time was set for 10 a.m. I arrived on time but ended up waiting for her at the coffee for another half hour before she finally showed up, fashionably late. Judy is beautiful. Back when her dad was still rich, she lived a pampered life. Even after her dad went bankrupt, she had good fortune, she married someone abroad. Now she's back after a divorce, and she's got Devin helping her out in every way. So lucky. Judy sat down across from me, her makeup flawless, and her smile sweet. As for me, my dark circles were pronounced, I'd lost weight, and I looked terrible. "Carol, what made you ask me out all of a sudden?" We weren't exactly close, just old classmates, really. Yet somehow, she spoke to me like we were best friends. The fruit tea I ordered sat untouched. The cold surface of the glass brought me back to my senses. "Oh, you've already ordered." Judy's eyes fell on the table, then she smiled and called for the waiter, "An iced Americano, please." She propped her chin on her hand and smiled at me. Devin loves iced Americanos too. I didn't used to like them, but lately, I've really gotten into them. I sipped my tea, choosing not to respond. Judy's smile was innocent, almost obedient. She was the one who first told me she was back in the country after her divorce. Out of the blue, she added me on WeChat after years of no contact. Her message was polite, but I could sense the smugness she couldn't quite hide. It was as if she couldn't wait to tell me, "I'm back, and I'm going to take your husband." As the fruity aroma of my tea faded, all that remained was bitterness. Judy's iced Americano hadn't arrived yet, but her gaze was fixed on me. When I finally met her eyes, she smiled even more sweetly. "Speaking of which, I have to thank Devin." A sudden, loud slap echoed through the coffee. A few customers craned their necks to see what was going on. Judy's face turned to the side, and a red mark began to bloom on her pale cheek. She looked stunned, like she couldn't believe I had slapped her. Covering her face, she turned to me, "You." I didn't want to hear her say my name. One slap wasn't enough to vent my anger. I grabbed my untouched tea and dumped it over her head. The dark liquid dripped down her hair, splattering on the table and soaking into her white blouse. Lemon slices, peach bits, and other fruit pieces clung to her hair, her clothes, and her designer bag. Her makeup wasn't waterproof. Her eyeshadow smeared, making her look ridiculous. For a second, she froze. The entire coffee was watching us now, eyes glued to our every move. Suddenly, her eyes reddened, tears welling up, making her look delicate and pitiful. "Carol, what are you?" "Judy." I cut her off, coldly. "You know what this is about. Don't play the innocent act in front of me." Her tears hung on the edge of falling, but didn't. "You came back for Devin. You know he'll treat you well, and you want to take him from me. Isn't that right?" I looked at her calmly, waiting. Her face turned white for a moment, but then she quickly regained her composure. She pulled a tissue from her bag and started wiping the mess off her face, slowly and deliberately. "That's right." Judy looked at me, a confident smile tugging at her lips. She lowered her voice, "Carol, you can't force love." It was out in the open now. I looked at her and suddenly found myself laughing. "You're right. Judy, how about we make a bet? If you win, he's all yours. I'll break up with him, and you won't have to worry about being labeled the other woman." Judy looked at me silently, then smiled sweetly. "Sure." Devin came home while I was writing in my journal. When I heard him open the door, I set my pen down and slipped the journal into the drawer. Devin had been coming home early a lot lately. Sometimes at night, he'd even come with me when I took Kara for a walk. That evening, I was sitting on the bed reading when he suddenly snuggled up beside me, pulling me into his arms. I leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his body, slightly warmer than mine. He rested his chin on my head, looking at the romance novel I was reading. We got to the part where the male lead stood up for the female antagonist, and she slapped the female protagonist. The protagonist cried, "I'm your wife." Devon's arm around my waist tightened slightly. I turned the page, pretending not to notice. The story continued, with the male lead repeatedly supporting the antagonist, while the protagonist became more and more heartbroken, until she finally decided to leave him. The male lead had a sudden change of heart and began to chase after her. Eventually, they had their happy ending. By the time I finished the book, it was late. I remembered I had left my sleeping pills in another room, so I started to get up, but Devon didn't let go. He held me tightly in his arms. "Devon?" I called his name. "Yeah." He responded quietly. The room fell into silence. A silence so deep I could hear his heartbeat. "Carol." He buried his head in my shoulder, sounding almost vulnerable. "You used to call me baby." I suddenly felt like laughing. Devon never used to call me Carol. Back then, he used to address me so politely, with a formal "Miss Carol," as if we were strangers. I guess we'd both changed. I turned to face him, wrapped my arms around his waist, and smiled as I called him, baby. He looked at me, carefully studying my expression, before lowering his gaze and pulling me even closer. "Carol." I never knew Devon could be so affectionate. But if he truly loved me, then why was he so devoted to Judy? It had been a week since I met with Judy. Our wedding anniversary was approaching, and Devon was clinging to me more than ever. On the 100th day of my journal, the same day as our anniversary, Devon did something special. I had casually mentioned something before, and he remembered it. He came home early and spent the whole afternoon cooking in the kitchen. I took Kara out to play, and when I got back, the house was beautifully decorated. The food on the table smelled delicious, and Devon stood by, smiling softly at me. "Carol, welcome home." Roses and music, cliché but romantic. There were 2 plane tickets under the champagne, for the day after tomorrow. I glanced at Devon, then at the tickets, and smiled. The clock on the wall showed 8 p.m. Everything was perfect. Until Judy called. She was crying, her voice pitiful and delicate. She used the nickname they had once shared. "Devon, I'm really struggling. I'm here all alone and don't know anyone. Can you come and help me, please?" "Devon." The romantic mood shattered. Devon glanced at me. And in that one look, I understood. "Sorry. I'll just drop her at the hospital and be right back. It won't take long." I asked him just one thing. "Can you not go?" Devon looked at me but didn't say anything. The atmosphere froze. His smile disappeared, and he turned back into the Devon from 4 years ago. Cold. A stranger. He broke eye contact and tried to reassure me. "I'll be back soon. I won't miss our anniversary." We were at a standoff. In the end, I gave in. "Fine." Devon turned and walked toward the door, and I stood in the living room, watching his back. He looked back at me. I smiled. Just like I had countless times before, like a dutiful wife sending off her husband. "Drive safely," I said. I watched him disappear into the night, while music still played softly from the speakers. I grabbed the speaker and smashed it to the floor. The loud crash left the living room eerily quiet. Then I turned and went back to my room. Devon wouldn't be coming home tonight. I knew that. Judy had won the bet. But I hadn't lost either. Back in my room, I locked the door and took out my journal, flipping to the most recent page. The final page. But when I tried to write, my hand felt heavy, as if I couldn't continue. Everything in my head scattered, like an indecipherable code. My abdomen, head, and heart all seemed to have been cut open with a knife. I suddenly felt very cold, as if the cold came from my bones. My hand holding the pen was shaking a little, but I still wrote stroke by stroke. August 25th. Today is our wedding anniversary. Devon cooked for me, and even decorated the house. He was planning to take me to a tropical island for a vacation. The celebration hadn't started yet when Judy called. Devin went to see Judy. He left me behind. I'll never make it to the island now. Goodbye, Devin. Tears fell onto the paper, smudging the ink. But I didn't feel any sadness. Those tears were born out of pain. I've lived my life on love. The love of others, and my own. Since no one loves me, I've survived solely on my love for Devin. I used to love him so much. But after all that love was drained away, all that's left is this empty shell. Like a candle burned to its end. I won't last much longer. My last bit of love for Devin disappeared entirely today. As I finished writing the last word, I sat at my desk and laughed, a real, hearty laugh. My part in this play ends today. Why did I keep it from Devin? Why did I keep pretending not to see the affair? Why did I give Judy the chance? The gift I gave Judy wasn't a vine to climb higher, it was a sharp and deadly knife. No living person can compete with a dead one. It's okay if Devin doesn't love me. But he'll never forget me. He'll carry the guilt for the rest of his life. I'll make him feel ashamed, make him regret everything. I'll make him read this diary over and over, relive my emotions again and again, and spend the rest of his life remembering how, while his wife was dying of a terminal illness, he pushed her deeper into despair. This absurd drama, driven by my death, will now climax with Devin and Judy. The hard sleeping pills caught in my throat, making me uncomfortable, but I forced myself to swallow them all. On the table, alongside my diary, was a recipe book I'd carefully written for him. His stomach's sensitive, and he's picky about food. Over these 4 years, I've learned what he likes, bit by bit. That's my final gift to him. I quietly lay down on the bed, hands folded, waiting for death to come. The room was silent. Until I heard a dog barking outside the door. Something heavy hit the door repeatedly, making dull thudding sounds. I stared at the ceiling, ignoring everything. Kara kept barking. But sleepiness began to take over my brain, and my consciousness started to fade. Devin suddenly felt a wave of panic, like he was about to lose something precious. It was the same feeling he had that day in the banquet hall, watching Carol from across the room. Her face was pale, her body frail, like she might leave him at any moment. Only one thought echoed in his mind: hold on to her. Don't let her go. But she left anyway. The panic gripped him, so much that he even forgot why he had come to the banquet. After an hour of distractedly lingering, he rushed home. He thought Carol would be angry, jealous, that she'd demand to know why he had acted that way. But she didn't. She just sat on the couch, smiled at him, and with an almost gentle tone, smoothed things over. But his sense of unease only grew stronger. It'll be fine, Devin told himself. Carol loves him. He's always known that Carol loves him, she's always been open, passionate, and sincere. He knew she'd forgive him, which is why, when Judy called, crying, he agreed to go. Carol would understand. He took Judy to the hospital, stayed with her until she was hooked up to N4, and was about to leave when she grabbed his sleeve. Tears still clung to the corners of Judy's eyes as she looked up at him, her eyes red. Devin, can you stay with me for a bit? Devin wanted to refuse. He had promised Carol he wouldn't ruin their anniversary. But Judy just kept looking at him with those tearful eyes, her body thin and trembling slightly. And it was night. He gave in. When Devin finally returned home, it was already the early hours of the next morning. The living room lights were still on, casting a faint warm glow in the dim dawn light. Devin quickened his pace, eager to see Carol. He had broken his promise. But when he entered the bedroom, Carol wasn't there. She wasn't in the study, nor in the guest room where she sometimes stayed. She was nowhere to be found. The food on the dining table had gone cold, untouched. In one corner of the living room, the broken remains of a speaker lay on the floor, as if someone had thrown it in anger. A few of her clothes were missing, along with Kara. Carol was mad. Devin thought she had just left on a whim, gone on a trip to cool off. It's okay, he thought. She'll be back once she's calmed down. He'd apologize, explain everything when she returned. But days passed, and Carol didn't come back. No one knew where she had gone. Her phone was turned off. Her colleagues said she had quit her job 3 months ago. Her mother said she hadn't seen her for a month. Please tell her that she can come by and pick up her bank card whenever she wants. I don't need her money, she should keep it for herself. The middle-aged woman's tone was polite but distant. That was when Devon began to sense that something was seriously wrong. Panic washed over him again, stronger this time, like a wave crashing back after receding briefly. Devon started searching for Carol, tracking her whereabouts, digging through her social media and the footage from their car's dashcam. Carol's recent days seemed simple. She'd go out in the morning for a walk, buy groceries, come back for lunch, then take Kara out to play in the afternoon. Day after day, the same routine. But sometimes, she'd drive to the hospital. Devon wasn't stupid. The pieces clicked into place, and the answer became obvious. He remembered waking up one night and seeing her sitting by the window, staring outside, wide awake. He remembered her frail body as he held her, the increasing silence at the dinner table, and the constant furrow of her brow. Devon didn't want to believe it. Because she hadn't told him anything. But he had to believe it. Because she hadn't told him anything. Devon searched for her for a long time, but it was as if Carol had disappeared completely. He couldn't find her anywhere. A month and a half later, an unfamiliar number called him. Carol was dead. She had died at a clinic on an island. By the time Devon arrived, her ashes had already been scattered into the sea. A young nurse greeted him, her demeanor cold. She handed him 3 notebooks from Carol's room. These are Ms. Carol's diaries and some other records. The woman paused before adding, Carol asked me to burn them, but I thought you should see them. As she left, she gave Devon one final look, her eyes filled with icy disdain. Devon sat in the room for the entire afternoon. The warm sunlight streamed through the window, filling the space with a cozy glow. But as he sat there, all he felt was a choking suffocation, like something was gripping his throat. It wasn't until late into the night that he opened Carol's diaries. All the details he had ignored, all the silent tears she had shed, all the pain she had kept to herself, they wove together into a sharp web that tore his heart to pieces. May 17th. The doctor said I have pancreatic cancer. He looked at me with pity. To be honest, I didn't hear much of what he said. All I know is it's untreatable. The doctor wants me to start treatment soon, but I don't want to. I hate hospitals, the cold walls, the smell of disinfectant everywhere, the oppressive atmosphere. And there's no one to stay with me. I thought about calling Devon, but I didn't know how to say it. What would I tell him? Should I tell him I'm dying? I decided not to. But then Devon called, saying he had something to do tonight and would be home late. I suddenly remembered that Judy was coming back today. Did Devon go to pick her up? May 18th. I went to Devon's office to bring him lunch. I ran into Judy. She looked just as beautiful as ever. She ate the lunch I made for Devon. I was furious. But then I thought about it and realized that whatever I gave to Devon was his to do with as he pleased. May 21st. I went to see Mom today, and she's doing well. I was going to tell her, but then I thought maybe it wasn't necessary. She's happy now, and I shouldn't disturb her. On the way back, I ran into Devon and Judy. And a puppy. I want to keep it. The moment I said it, I saw Devon's face change. But I'm determined to keep it. The vet asked me what its name was. Let's call it Kara. Kara, Carol. May 22nd. Before bed last night, I asked Devon if he still meant what he said. He said he did. If only I were a bit more naive. Then I wouldn't have noticed how he dodged the question. Devon. People who betray true love should swallow 1,000 needles. May 25th. I came across Devon on Instagram. He appeared in a photo Judy posted. It was a dinner with some successful young elites, and in the lower left corner, you could see part of his face. Her caption read, "It's great having a big shot in the business world as a friend." I thought it was great too, so I gave her post a like. May 28th. It's been a few days since Kara came home, and the supplies I ordered online for her arrived today. I went to the pickup station, and the owner had packed everything together. There's quite a lot. When Devon got back, I asked him to help me fetch Kara's packages. He said okay and went straight to his study. He'll remember, right? June 1st. Children's Day. I took Kara out for the entire day. On the way back, we passed by the delivery station, and after thinking it over, I went in to pick up the packages myself. The staff was really nice, he helped me carry them to the car. Kara's room is on the second floor. I didn't wait for Devin to come back. June 7th. I've been sleeping poorly. I can't fall asleep most nights. During the day, I took Kara out, and we passed a bakery. I realized I hadn't had desserts in a long time, so I bought a box of cakes. But when I got home, I suddenly didn't feel like eating them anymore. I used to love them, but now, just looking at the sticky cream makes me feel sick. June 19th. Devin seems to be getting busier, always telling me not to wait up for him at night. While he fades from my life, he appears more and more frequently in Judy's Instagram posts. Sometimes, I envy Judy. When we were kids, my dad loved her. When we grew up, her ex-husband loved her. And now, after their divorce, my husband loves her too. But it seems like I have nothing. June 25th. I'm completely sleepless now. Night after night, I stay awake, plagued by worsening pain. It hurts when I stand, when I sit, when I lie down. It hurts so much. The person in the mirror looks terrible. My skin is starting to take on a sickly yellow hue. June 30th. Devin came home for dinner. In truth, it's been a long time since I've had a proper meal. Even when I force myself to eat, I end up throwing it up. So, I just eat a little. I used the excuse of feeding Kara to leave the table. And then, I coughed up blood. I've only ever seen this happen on TV, where the female lead, tragically ill, coughs up blood in a delicate, heartbreaking way. I don't get the treatment of a female lead, but I've ended up with her illness. It's not really a big deal, though. It's just blood. Compared to the pain and sleeplessness, coughing up blood almost feels like nothing. July 5th. Devin asked if I wanted to go to a dinner party. I said no. It's been a while since I looked in the mirror. I can't sleep at night, and I can't eat. This morning, while brushing my teeth, I accidentally caught a glimpse of myself. The person in the mirror felt unfamiliar. My cheeks have hollowed, my cheekbones are a bit too prominent, and there are dark circles under my eyes. My lips are pale. I've aged so much all of a sudden. But I'm only in my 20s, supposedly the prime of my life. It's only going to get worse. Weight loss, jaundice, abdominal pain, nerve damage, it clings to me like a shadow, haunting me until I die. I don't want to die looking like this. July 11th. I broke my promise. I went to the dinner party after all. Devin and Judy looked good together. If I weren't losing my mind, that thought wouldn't have popped up the moment I saw them. Later, Devin saw me. He was going to come over, but I ran. I've realized I can't control my emotions anymore. If it weren't for Kara, I don't know what I would have done. July 18th. Abdominal pain, sleeplessness. I ate, but then threw up again. July 22nd. The scissors in my room were stained with blood. By the time I snapped out of it, I realized I had cut my arm. I quickly bandaged it up. This isn't the first time. I'm going to the hospital tomorrow to get some sleeping pills. July 26th. Abdominal pain, vomiting blood. It hurts more after I eat. I don't want to eat anymore. July 30th. I almost fainted from the pain while lying in bed. When I regained consciousness, I saw Kara licking my hand at the bedside. I absent-mindedly patted her head. I grabbed my phone to check Instagram. Judy had gone to the beach. The scenery in her grid posts was beautiful. In the last picture, I saw Devin's hand. He was still wearing our wedding ring. August 1st. My body hurts so much. August 5th. I went to the hospital to get painkillers. August 15th. I saw Judy. She's beautiful. I haven't looked in the mirror in a long time. I know I'm ugly now. August 20th. The sleeping pills seem to be losing their effect. The doctor advised me to be hospitalized. He said it would only get worse toward the end. I refused. I wasn't planning to live to the end anyway. August 25th. The original words were crossed out. 2 new sentences were added. Carol died today. But Kara saved her. August 25th. I was supposed to die today, but Kara wouldn't let me. She kept barking, barking so loudly. It was annoying. Annoying to the point I couldn't sleep. Annoying to the point I couldn't bear it anymore. With the last bit of my consciousness, I dialed the phone. A few hours later, I woke up with N4 in my arm. A nurse was standing by my bed. "Where's Kara?" She hesitated for a moment. "Kara is." I tried to sit up, gripping the bed rail, but my body wouldn't listen. The nurse gave me a hand. "I want to go home." "Your body is still weak, you can't." "I want to go home." I lowered my eyes. Stubbornly and unreasonably, I repeated myself. Kara wasn't here. I needed to find her. By the time I got home, it was already late at night. Devin had sent me messages, but I didn't check them. I just blocked him. As soon as I opened the door, the little cream-colored dog leaped into my arms. Kara kept barking, snuggling against me, and licking me. I held her tight, and suddenly, the tears came. All the emotions I had suppressed broke free, like a flood. I sat on the cold floor of the living room, holding her and crying for a long time. I cried until my eyes were swollen. In the end, I buried my face in her fur and whispered, "Kara. Let's go. I want to go somewhere no one knows. Just me and Kara. And love." I don't know if Kara understood me. She just looked at me with her serious eyes and then, slowly, carefully licked away all my tears. No one in this world loves me. But a dog will. A dog will always love the person who brought her home. Kara will always love Carol. I left that night and went to an island. I checked into a hospice. Life on the island is as beautiful as I had hoped. I spend the days playing with Kara on the beach and chatting with the townspeople. In the evenings, I walk by the sea. I love the ocean. The endless waves and the salty sea breeze. Just looking at the ocean somehow brings me peace. I hired a caregiver, a young girl, both pretty and capable. After a few days of helping me, I told her things might get tougher later on. She watched me cough up blood and asked what illness I had. "Pancreatic cancer." I casually tossed the blood-stained tissue away as I replied to her. Nellie's eyes immediately turned red with tears. I panicked, unsure of how to comfort her. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she looked at me. "But you're not even 30 yet." Her tears fell onto my hand, burning my skin with their heat. Why did it have to be this illness? Girls can easily empathize with other girls. Even though we hadn't known each other long, and even though she knew little about my life, the sadness and grief she felt for me were so genuine. But I wasn't actually sad. I had gotten used to it. Still, when she gently held my hand and choked out, "It must hurt, right?" I couldn't help but cry. The pain had already worn me down long ago. From the moment I opened my eyes each day, the pain woke up with me. It followed me everywhere, like a shadow. I couldn't eat. Everything that once tasted delicious now felt like chewing wax. I didn't dare eat, because it would hurt even more afterward. The pain wasn't just physical. Insomnia had led to a nervous breakdown, and with no one to talk to, I could only chew on my suffering, day after day. The only companion I had was Kara. A dog can't speak. But when I was in pain, she'd circle around me, barking in distress. When I held her, she'd stop barking. She'd just quietly lick my hand. "It hurts," I told Nellie. It sounded like a complaint, or maybe a plea for comfort. It was the kind of thing you should say to someone who loves you. But I had no one to tell. I couldn't tell my dad because, to him, Judy was his only daughter. I couldn't tell my mom because she had become someone else's mother. I couldn't tell Devin because he was busy planning a future with Judy. In the end, I told someone I wasn't even that familiar with. I had stopped going to the hospital for treatment. It would only prolong my life of suffering. I lived on painkillers and sleeping pills. Day by day, I wasted away. When I occasionally looked in the mirror, the person staring back at me had yellowed skin and a gaunt face, looking nothing like a girl in her 20s. Life had become like a flower wilting too quickly. I could barely walk anymore. Nellie pushed me out every day to sit in the sun and watch Kara play on the lawn. Sometimes I'd have her push me to the beach for a walk, to feel the sea breeze. Kara didn't mind that I was ugly and always wanted to lick my face. But I didn't let her anymore. Nellie didn't ask about my illness anymore. She just chatted with me about my past, her past, gossip, anything and everything. One day, while tidying up, she found the wedding ring I kept in my drawer and gasped, "Carol, you're married?" "Yeah. So your husband?" She trailed off, sensing something. I just smiled. "He doesn't know. He didn't know I was sick. He didn't know I had secretly come here." "Are you divorced?" Nellie blurted out, then quickly covered her mouth in regret. "No." "Then why?" I smiled again, not answering her question, and changed the subject. Life on the island passed quickly. Happiness is always fleeting. I started to lose strength. The painkillers no longer worked. The pain had become unbearable, and I couldn't eat anything. I had hidden a knife in my room. Sometimes I'd hold it against my wrist, but when I looked at Kara sleeping nearby, I'd put it down again. Living had become a form of torture for me. I rarely went outside anymore. But lying down hurt, too. Nellie would come and chat with me, telling me gossip from the town. Her neighbor's daughter had a falling out with her boyfriend, and they were arguing every night. Later, the girl tried to end her life at home to force her boyfriend not to break up with her. It was chaotic and hysterical, making a big scene at the hospital. Nellie sighed, it was terrifying. How could anyone use their own life to save a relationship? Because they once loved too deeply. Then it became an obsession. That's why they couldn't let go, even if it tore them apart. I smiled at her. I used to be like that too. When you've never been truly loved, you end up craving love all the more. Nellie looked at me in shock. I can't imagine it. You're so gentle. That's because I have Kara now. Talk to her more, Nellie, I said. In the end, she'll have to let go. She still has time, and if she cuts her losses now, she can start over. But I don't have that chance anymore. I really couldn't hold on any longer. I asked Nellie to take me for a walk. There weren't many people at the beach that evening. We walked a bit, then stopped. The road was quiet. Kara didn't bark. When she pushed me back to my room, Kara followed us inside. I hadn't let her into the room for days. She ran to my bedside and tried to jump up to snuggle me. I asked Nellie to take her away. But Kara wouldn't let her. She dodged left and right, baring her teeth and growling fiercely at her. "Kara." I called her name softly. She quieted down, her eyes filled with inexplicable sadness. I glanced at Nellie. She picked up Kara and took her out. I heard a few more barks from outside, growing fainter. I remembered the first time I met her. She was filthy. So thin and pitiful. The vet later said she was riddled with problems and had been abused. I wish I had found her sooner. The pain blurred my consciousness. I hoped in the next life, I could take Kara home earlier. Let her be a happy, healthy little dog. One who never goes hungry or cold, and never gets hurt. And maybe, in the next life, I could learn to love myself sooner. Epilogue. When Nellie opened the door, a tall, slender figure was standing outside, covered in a layer of frost. It was Carol's husband. No one knew how long he had been standing there, but when he saw her, he gave a stiff smile, like a wind-up doll. "Miss Nellie. Could you take me to the places she liked to visit?" Nellie didn't respond. She didn't like this man. Carol had always been tight-lipped about her marriage, and Nellie had only been able to get small hints about her relationships. Of course, she was curious. One day, while helping Carol tidy up, Nellie had knocked over a book from her table. A notebook had fallen out and opened. She admitted she was curious. She glanced at it while picking it up. It was Carol's diary. A diary of her secret love. Devon's name filled most of the pages. In her early 20s, still full of imagination, Nellie pieced together Carol's story from her casual remarks, an unrequited love that had lasted for years, ending with her marrying someone else. But when the man came to handle Carol's belongings, he was wearing a wedding ring identical to Carol's. And when Nellie saw him sign his name, Devon, she was stunned. If Carol had married the man she had loved for so long, then why had she come here to die alone? What had happened that she never saw the love of her life again before she passed? Nellie couldn't figure it out. But instinctively, she hated this man. She refused. But when she opened the door on the 5th day to see him standing in the yard again, Nellie finally relented. Devon followed Nellie to the places Carol often visited. A park full of people, a corner coffee, a road around the island, and a beach. The park was where she took Kara to play with other dogs. At the coffee, she'd sit for hours. The road was near the nursing home. Before she needed a wheelchair, she could walk even farther. The beach was where she stayed the longest. She and Kara, side by side. Resting quietly, like two statues. Devon walked back and forth, imagining the conversation over and over again. 5 days later, he knocked on Nellie's door once more. An inexplicable fear crept over him as he hesitated. "Miss Nellie, could you talk to me about Carol?" The person in front of him suddenly changed her expression, her hand on the doorknob trembling. After a long silence, he finally heard her say, "No." The usually indifferent girl was now visibly emotional, her eyes turning red. "What is it that you want to know? Do you want to know how she struggled through her illness all alone? Or how she died with only a dog by her side? Or perhaps you want to know just how much pain she endured, tormented by cancer until she was unrecognizable?" Carol never cried out in pain. But Nellie could see the veins bulging on her forehead and the cold sweat. Nellie didn't cry when Carol died. She didn't cry when Carol's ashes were scattered into the sea. She didn't cry when she heard that Kara, Carol's dog, refused to eat or drink at its new home, curling into a tiny ball. But to watch someone, watch their life be ravaged by illness, to see them wither bit by bit, to see them in unbearable pain yet remain so gentle and calm, to witness a living, breathing person turn into a handful of ashes in your hands. How could she not feel devastated? Carol was in the prime of her life, but everything was irreversibly lost. Tears streamed down Nellie's face, falling in big drops. She cried uncontrollably, wiping away the tears with her hand. With red-rimmed eyes, she spoke in a cold voice. "So, sir, where were you when she was suffering through her illness?" Where was he? Devon thought for a long time. He had been with Judy. Devon stayed on the island for half a month. He found the house where Kara was living now. He visited several times, hoping to get Kara back from the new owner. The man who took Kara in was a rough-looking guy. He was rude and unreasonable. No matter how high a price Devon offered, the man wouldn't budge. In fact, he grabbed a broom several times and tried to chase him out. But Devon didn't give up. He kept going back, and after being chased away, he'd return the next day. After about a week, the man lost his patience, standing at the door to curse him out. After he finished, he asked, "Why are you so crazy about this mutt?" Devon stood there, silently taking the scolding like a schoolboy, and when he heard the question, he froze. There was a moment of silence. The man was about to go back inside when he suddenly heard Devon say, "She was my late wife's dog." The man turned around and looked at him for a moment, then walked back into the house without a word. Devon stood silently at the door. It wasn't long before the man returned, holding the little white dog in his arms. He handed Kara to Devon. "Take good care of her. Otherwise, next time she sees you, she'll blame you." Kara wasn't close to Devon. When he brought her back home, her bed and toys were still in the old house. But Kara spent every day in the room Carol used to live in. Devon knew it was because the room still held her scent. The little dog curled into a ball, burying herself in the pillows. She didn't bark or make any trouble, just stayed quiet and obedient. Life didn't seem to change much from before. Devon still went to work, came home, ate, and lived his life day by day. Except now, there was no Carol. He was an adult, so when he was hungry, he ate. When he was thirsty, he drank. When he was tired, he slept. One morning, Kara slipped out when Devon opened the door. She was gone in a flash. He was frantic, searching everywhere. By the time he came home in the evening, he found her sitting by the front door. Her black eyes looked up at him, then she lowered her head and barked twice. Devon picked her up, holding her in his arms just like Carol used to. The house was dark, the lights off. In the pitch black, Devon held Kara for a long time before letting out a sigh. She wouldn't blame me. She didn't want to see him anymore. People at the office said Devon had changed. Not that he'd become colder, but that he'd become gentler. Devon used to be a man of few words, always wearing a stern expression. But lately, he smiled more often. Even over small matters, he'd offer a few kind words of praise. His co-workers whispered amongst themselves. If Devon wasn't married, that smile of his could steal my soul. What's up with Devon? He's like a different person. Maybe, a girl said with a smile, holding her coffee. Devon's been influenced by his wife. Devon's wife was a beautiful woman. Whenever they saw her, she was always smiling, gentle and kind, but also very capable. Sometimes, when she visited, she would greet everyone without a hint of arrogance. Speaking of, it's been a while since we last saw Carol. Devon walked past the break room, and that was the sentence he overheard. Time seemed to freeze at that moment. Devon stood in front of the door, unable to take another step. She wasn't coming back. Kara kept running off every day. But by the afternoon, she was always waiting at the front door for Devon, and as soon as he came home, she'd scamper upstairs, going straight to Carol's room. Devon became curious. What did she do outside every day? He followed her one day, watching as she walked a familiar route to the park. She found a sandbox, dug for a while, and then left, retracing her steps. She wandered around the neighborhood a bit before returning home and sitting by the door, waiting for him. At first, Devon didn't understand. But one day, a girl at the park petted her and softly asked, "Kara, where's your owner?" Kara barked twice, then fell silent. Suddenly, Devon understood. This was the route Carol used to walk with her every day. Carol was gone. But Kara kept walking. That day, when they got home, Devon followed Kara into Carol's room again. The little dog crawled under the desk and pulled out an empty bottle. Devon picked it up and looked at it. It was a bottle of sleeping pills. He suddenly remembered the line that had been scratched out. "I'll never be able to go to the island again. Goodbye, Devon." Carol died on that day. But Kara saved her. The empty bottle of sleeping pills, the scratches on the door, the tear-stained letters, the unanswered messages, and Carol, who should have died that day. The sorrow he had suppressed all this time crashed over him like a tidal wave, sweeping him away. Regret became a massive monster that swallowed him whole, chewing him up over and over again. Devon collapsed to the floor, recalling every detail of that day. Like some form of self-punishment, he kept replaying it in his mind. What the hell had he done? 3 days later, Felix finally knocked on his friend's door. Judy had sent Devon countless messages and made numerous calls, none of which he responded to, so she had no choice but to reach out to Felix. Felix stood at the door, knocking for a full 3 hours. When Devon opened it, wearing nothing but a white shirt stained with alcohol, Felix was shocked. The stench of alcohol was overwhelming, making Felix want to puke, but at least Devon looked relatively stable. Despite his disheveled appearance and the strong smell of alcohol, Devon's face was still cold and stoic, as if he could still be reasoned with. Without a word, Felix entered the house. When he saw the inside, he almost cursed. Stable? His ass. The living room was filled with empty liquor bottles. They were stacked neatly on the floor, not a single one out of place. Everything in the house was organized to an almost obsessive degree. Devon sat on the sofa, picked up a half-empty bottle from the coffee table, and took a swig straight from the bottle. He's gone mad. Felix rushed over and snatched the bottle away. Clear liquid spilled all over Devon. Devon glanced up at Felix, but said nothing. Slowly, he reached for another bottle from a box nearby and began to unscrew it. "Have you lost your mind, Devon?" Felix shouted. "You're damn lucky you're not dead already, and you still want to drink." Felix snatched the drink away and spat out just a couple of curses before seeing his friend collapse onto the couch, eyes shut. What a madman. When Devon woke up in the hospital, the first thing he saw was Felix sitting by his side. His head was groggy, and flashes of Felix yelling at him drifted through his mind. Devon thought for a while, but could only remember himself drinking until he couldn't anymore, then heading to the bathroom to throw up. After that, he went back to drinking. But somehow, he never got drunk. Felix put down his phone and saw his friend lying in bed, staring straight at him. The lack of expression on his face made it all the more terrifying. Felix felt a surge of anger, ready to lash out. Carol's gone. The sudden statement extinguished Felix's fury. Devon's voice was hoarse, like sandpaper scraping together. Gone? Where did she go? Felix's brain couldn't keep up for a moment. Devon lowered his gaze. She was sick. What kind of illness? Pancreatic cancer. Felix fell silent at once. On our wedding anniversary, Judy called me. She told me Carol was sick and asked me to go see her. When I was leaving, Carol asked me if I could stay. I didn't answer. That night, she was alone at home and took a lot of sleeping pills. Felix. Devon lifted his eyes, his gaze empty, like a dead pond. Tell me, when she saw me leave that day, what was going through her mind? Felix remained quiet. When she took those sleeping pills, lying in bed waiting to die, what was she thinking? There was no answer. Suddenly, the man on the bed sat up, eyes red, his voice rough and filled with pain. It was unclear whether he was asking Felix or asking himself. What do you think she was thinking? Without warning, Felix stood up. He walked straight out without looking back. The door slammed shut with a loud bang. The room was left with only one person. Only him, staring blankly at the stark white wall. In the end, he broke down in sobs. After Devon was discharged from the hospital, he quit his job. He spent every day walking with Kara along the paths he and Carol used to walk. Day after day, year after year. He followed the recipes Carol had written down for him, teaching himself how to cook. At first, he was clumsy, but eventually, he got the hang of it. Still, no matter how good he became, it never quite tasted the same as when Carol made it. Later, he started having trouble sleeping too. When he couldn't sleep, he would dig out Carol's old journals. On every page, he found his name. He'd read them over and over again. Sometimes laughing, sometimes crying. It turned out she had quietly loved him for so many years. Eventually, Kara couldn't walk anymore either. She was a stray to begin with, her body was riddled with problems, and her lifespan was short. If Carol hadn't brought her home, she would have died 2 winters ago. Now, she didn't even leave the house anymore. She curled into a tiny ball every day, lying on Carol's pillow. Devon stopped going out as well. After eating, he'd just sit with her. On the day Kara passed away, Devon was by her side. The little dog suddenly struggled to its feet, trembling, and barked twice at something. Then, a silly smile appeared on her face, her tail wagging unsteadily. Devon watched as she tried to pounce forward, but instead, she collapsed back onto the bed, lying motionless. After about 10 seconds, she stopped moving altogether. Devon knew, Carol had come to take her. As darkness consumed his last shred of consciousness, Devon thought, so that's what Carol must have felt like that day. End.